Ready? Okay, we're going to call the work session for Monday, May 2nd to order. We're going to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, if you would, please.
Okay. The first item this evening is the NAP lot line revision. This was a simple subdivision that council approved or accepted as complete last month. Property is located on New Texas Road. The applicant is requesting permission to combine a number of parcels, to create a new parcel.
It's adjustment of lot lines.
I don't know why I can't read my own writing, my own typing here. New Texas Road, the new property, 6.57 acres, 738 New Texas Road. Property is zoned single-family residential. It is the application is recommended by both staff and the engineer.
Any discussion? Agenda item?
Item number 2 is the same thing. It is a simple subdivision. It was also accepted as complete last month by council. The property is located on Jackson Road. The newly created parcel would be 2.49 acres, and another parcel that would be 0.73 acres. Staff recommends approval of this application as well.
Any discussion? Okay, agenda item.
Third item is the same thing. It was a simple lot line revision. This is a lot line revision between two lots in Chevelle Estates, lots 17 and 18 at 110 and 120 Chevelle Court. Simple subdivision accepted by council last month. Recommendation by staff to approve.
Any discussion, questions? Agenda item.
Item number 4 is a watershed restoration and protection grant. Community development staff has been working on putting together a grant application to the Commonwealth Financing Authority. This would be a grant for retrofitting a number of our ponds with the goal of meeting current and future MS4 standards, as well as creating more functional and effective retention ponds during heavy rain flows. We don't have an actual dollar amount for the grant application at this time, but we will have that for you next Monday. The Commonwealth Financing Authority requires a resolution to be adopted by council for us to submit the grant application. We will have that for you next Monday when we recommend approval of the resolution.
Mike, does that include older neighborhoods too?
It's only where we have retention ponds, and we typically don't have retention ponds in older neighborhoods.
Yeah, and that's why, my question was, I was asked by several people pertaining to the flooding, was would it be a good idea to maybe, if we can find it, the property to put some retention ponds in, like, say, Holiday Park and Regency Park and maybe Renton?
Well, that's why we're upsizing the one at O Block for the. So a couple years ago, we went through this process with the Stormwater Task Force. Staff and I, along with the engineer's office, we went and looked everywhere in the borough where we could find it. I don't know if you guys remember the presentation we did. They're just, without taking property, taking people's homes.
Yeah.
There's not enough available land. And it's not just it has to be available land, right? It has to be in the right location. You know, land at the top of a hill doesn't help us.
Right,
so.
Right.
These were the places that we identified for the older neighborhoods, are those two big projects that we have working on right now, and then the two future projects. So that would be Center Beach, O Block, Anderson Avenue, and College Avenue. Those were the 4 locations we identified in the older communities, if you will, where we were able to do some sort of retention upstream.
Any more discussion?
Now, what's the range of the grants, do you know, the dollar range?
Dave, you can.
I want to say that they're offering up to $300,000 with a 15% contribution.
That's great money.
I don't think that we should have any expectation of getting anywhere close to that. You know as well as we do that our elected officials, you know, they want to pass that money around to as many different communities as they can. So, you know, anything we can get as a bonus, but, I mean, we've been lucky, I think, in the past to get on different grants between 150 and 200.
Yeah, I think you, well, you know, you ask for more than you might need, so.
Right, but we definitely need the help of our elected officials in Harrisburg to help push us through on these applications.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Agenda item.
Item number 5 is the special events permit. We actually discussed this with council last year about creating a special event permit. We are not ready at this point to start advertising the ordinance for the special event permit and have council recommend it. We've had a working session with the Parks and Rec Committee to discuss the permit itself or the ordinance regarding the permit. But in the meantime, you'll see in the agenda package that we received a request from another group that is requesting the use of Plum Creek ball fields. Until we get the special event permit process up and running, we don't really have a mechanism for them to get permission for this. So I've put that information in your agenda packets. If that's something that council is willing to consider, you could authorize at least this one-off, if you will, for this event. Dave, you remember what the dates are?
Yeah, the dates are June 13th to June 16th. It would be fields 7 and 8 to hold a baseball camp.
And this was discussed with PBSA?
The gentleman who wrote the note said he is a member of the Plum Boro Baseball and Softball Association.
Okay.
Camp's in the morning from 9 to noon, so
Oh,
it's not going to bother their schedule.
He said, which
But-
is also on board with promoting this camp.
okay. Any more discussion? Agenda item.
Item number 6 is an executive session item. Item number 7 is the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs Junior Council Program. So there was a meeting that was held prior to the April meeting? I can't even remember now. And it was suggested by the intergovernmental meeting, I apologize. And it was suggested by some members of the intergovernmental committee that the borough consider a junior council person. And I think the intention, at least initially, was that this would just be something that would be newly created. So that is the program, if you will, be newly created. But I mentioned at that meeting that the State Association of Boroughs, and we are a member of the State Association of Boroughs, already has a junior council program that they've created. There's a curriculum for it. There's a structure for it. I was just suggesting that if council wants to consider participating in a junior council program, junior council member program, might as well just use the PSAB program that's already there instead of us trying to reinvent the wheel. And just so you know, we did actually do this a while back. I can't remember, maybe some of you guys can remember,
Yeah, I
a while ago. We had a junior council person for a while. It kind
Yep.
of
Couple months,
faded
yeah.
away
Well,
early.
The person who was
earlier
doing
than
it with
we
the
hoped,
school
but-
district, she retired. She's Mike Devine's mother. And, you know, Mary Rose and I was instrumental in doing a lot of it, but to getting it started. But, you know, I was unelected after a while, and, you know, and she wasn't doing it, so it just fell to the wayside, you know, so
Yeah,
that's.
the school district,
We
the
need
school
something to
district wants to
keep
keep
it
it going, so
going,
we're gonna
yeah.
try doing it again. I
Perfect.
think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it
I
is.
agree. I like it.
It was,
I
you know,
think we had
thought-
talked about a guy and a girl.
Yeah,
Male
that's
and
what we had
female
before, I
state, yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Although
Everybody's in
one of them
agreement?
didn't stay long.
Well, I
That's a
just
girl.
Yeah.
want to clarify, the PSAB program doesn't
Designate.
designate, you know, a guy and a girl.
Right, right.
It's up to us,
But
really, to
we
come
had
up
thought,
with
we had thought it would be a good idea to have one of each.
Yeah. they're
That's
the
what we decided with
political
the-
science
Yeah, if
majors,
the interest
they
is
wanna
there,
get
why
Yeah,
involved in
not?
government. I
exactly.
think it's-
So, yeah,
think
and
it's
they're gonna
essential.
go through, Dr. Highland's gonna be in contact with Mike, and they're gonna sort of go through that. Everyone's in agreement with that?
Yeah,
Good idea?
sounds good.
In order to
idea.
participate in the PSAB program, there's a resolution for council to adopt. Do you want me to put that in the agenda packets for next week,
Yes,
for next
please.
month?
Yeah.
This is okay with the school board?
The
I guess, also?
so the information on the PSAB program is in your agenda packets. I would encourage you to take a look at it and make sure that it's a
Right.
program that's the way that you, envision this program heading.
Yeah, what we had asked for is for them to provide us with a couple names. And then we could decide at the council which ones we wanted.
Yeah,
Right?
we would interview.
Right,
Yeah.
we would interview them and then we would pick. But they would give us, they would pick the candidates by going through their teachers, their guidance counselors, and any other criteria that they thought was important enough.
Well,
to
Paul,
get some-
there's a whole process in here, what they have to do, so I don't think we can really tell the school district what to do. If they go through this program, they have to
Well,
do it this way.
they're just picking the candidates. We're gonna
I know, but I mean,
okay
the
them.
school board can't
Yeah.
pick, that's what I'm saying, the schools can't pick the candidates. The candidates have to apply and do this and that. and go through
That's the
it.
point I was trying to make. Like, if
Oh.
you're,
Yeah.
if you're gonna create, if you're gonna do the PSAP program, we gotta follow the PSAP program. If
Right,
you wanna create your own, which
So
quite
then we
honestly, I
have
would
to-
prefer
so
we
then we-
didn't, but
Go ahead, sorry.
just follow the.
Yeah,
the-
so there's if you read this thing, it says they can apply through the school district has they can have some criteria, and then they would interview with us, so it's not like you can just tell the school district to give us 3 candidates. I mean,
Yes.
that's what'll happen eventually, but
Well,
there's a
that-
way to
that's what
do
we
it.
had, that's what we had talked about. So if we want to go the way, then let's go this way. That's
Yeah,
a
just
good
go
idea.
this way, and the school
Yeah.
district can follow this, and
Okay,
the end
Yeah.
result will be the same.
okay.
Okay.
Process is just different.
Any other discussion?
No, I think it's great.
Okay. Agenda item.
Well, unless you wanna do the resolution next week, it doesn't. That's up to you guys. Do you wanna do the resolution next week?
Yeah,
For this
if we
week?
can get it
Sure.
together.
Do we want to look through it and decide if we want to with this junior council person program, do we want to give ourselves a week, some time to look through it and decide, or are we happy just with going with these standards and setting them, and is kind of what I'm getting at, because you were talking about, you don't want us to really,
Well, I would just say
mess
that
with this.
it's already a tried and
protocol.
true system that's working. I'd
Right.
rather than us try and reinvent the wheel here, I
Just go by these standards.
Yeah,
and-
I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know why we,
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's
the
fine.
big thing too,
Yeah,
like
that's
on that
fine.
right column on the information you provided, it says suggested guidelines that you
Right.
can adopt. So anything
Right.
that on here isn't set in stone. So it really gives you some still leeway to make
Right.
it your own little thing,
Absolutely.
while still having a good framework to base
Right.
it off of.
Okay. That's fine.
so that will
We're
be an
good.
agenda item for
That'll
next
be
week.
an
then.
agenda
Yeah.
item.
Item number 8 is also, that says Penn State DOT. It's just the DOT drug and alcohol testing program. We have CDL commercial drivers, licensed drivers in the Public Works Department. As part of the federal DOT regulations, all CDL holders must be part of a random drug and alcohol screening process to maintain their license. That testing process must be done at the expense of the employer. We participate in a program with a company that does random screening for us, and we're given a list of the randomly selected employees for the drug and alcohol screening. They go to an off-site location for the drug screening, for the drug testing. We haven't been real happy with the service we've been getting from that company, so the staff had been looking into some alternatives. We come up with 2. There is, the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs also has a program. It's a very similar model to what we currently have. We get a list of those individuals who've been monthly selected for random testing. They are told to go down to a testing facility. What we normally do is, when one or more employees is selected for the random drug screen, we will send them down with either a supervisor if available or another employer, which means taking 2 to 3 people off the road at any given time. And we can't send anybody down on their own for the drug screening for obvious reasons. And by the way, again, this is random, not reasonable suspicion. One of the other options that we were able to find is a local company here out of Monroeville, Mobile Health Services, that actually does the testing on site. They come to our facility, they do the random testing on our site. So we kind of like that for obvious reasons. Because it's on site, it's a little bit more expensive.
What
'cause you're
is
paying for
the
that
cost
service.
difference?
What's that?
What is the cost
So
difference?
there's an hourly cost plus the cost of it's in the agenda packets there, there's an hourly cost. If you look at the proposal, at the cost there under the agenda item, that is the mobile health screening. So for example, the DOT tests are $30 per test. On a non-positive test, there's a whole list there of a number of different testing and the expenses for the testing. The key difference here is that what we'd be paying for is a service to come on site and do that. And the advantage is I don't have to take 3 or more guys off the road. And
So if it costs more, you're gaining that by reducing the loss of production. So it's kind of
Absolutely, yeah.
offsetting itself.
3 employees at one time.
Right.
Or
versus
more.
the 1, yeah.
Mike, when you
Right,
say,
so-
when you say random, is it set up so that the same guy doesn't get randomly picked 3 times in a row?
Well, if it's
No.
truly random,
No,
you're
if
gonna
it-
have the same
If it's
guy
truly
get
random,
picked.
that same guy can get it, yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that happens a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, it did
you know?
happen in
Okay.
Turnpike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lucky always gets picked.
So, you know, we would like to pursue the contract with a new vendor as soon as possible. Like I said, we've put 2 options in the agenda packets for you, the PSAB option as well as the mobile health screening option. Again, I think I like the mobile health screening option because of the fact that they come to us and perform the services.
I do too.
Quick question. When we are on
escort
the
you in
2
the
shifts from November to April, will they come in and do an afternoon guy?
They'll come in and do whoever was randomly selected.
Right, so if it's an afternoon guy, he's not starting until 3:30.
Yeah, it would have to come in later. And the only difference would be if they were testing guys on, you know, if they had randomly selected 3 people, 2 were in the morning shift, 1 was in the afternoon shift, they would come out in the morning to do the 2 tests and come back out in the
Okay.
afternoon. We'd be paying the hourly rate again for them to come out and do the second test.
Okay. Still cheaper than doing the other way?
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? Agenda
I
item.
have
Oh,
one thing.
go ahead.
I own an interest in this company. Harold Katofsky,
Oh, it's Harold.
this is Harold running the show.
thought it was.
And he does Monroeville's now, he does we do other fire departments. I just want to give you notice that I own an interest in the company. I don't have much to say about it. I invested in it 15 years ago and have made some money on it, and it's been a nice thing. But I don't want you to think, I haven't talked to anybody about this. I haven't attempted to say a word to anybody, but I feel.
Well, you'll
obliged
abstain
to.
from voting on it then, right?
I will.
Okay, good.
Understand, as a vendor, I can do that. I can own a piece of the company and not have a conflict. But I just feel it's important to
No,
let
that's,
you know.
yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
divulging us.
Thank you.
It's important.
Okay, any other discussion? Agenda item?
Item number 9 is an executive session item to discuss potential public works hires. Item number 10 is an executive session item to discuss a potential legal matter with a vendor. Item number 10, or excuse me, number 11 is the Greenways Trails application. So, community development staff is also working on another grant application to the very same agency again for a Greenways Trails program application. What we're proposing to apply for this would be the 2023 funding year, correct, Dave?
Yeah, we would submit the application, and if we were successful in funding, we'd receive a contract at the end of the year with construction in 2023.
So, in conjunction with the ice rink, and the ice rink / splash pad, there are some proposed accessory buildings, and I say proposed, but they're necessary. So there's an accessory building to house the manufacturing, the filtration equipment and everything. There's some storage area that's necessary for various things, a concession stand, and restrooms, because restrooms are required. So included in your agenda packet is the site plan. You guys have seen this before. It was actually in last month as well. What we're planning on doing, if council authorizes it, was to apply for a grant for those accessory structures through the Greenways Trail Program. We feel that if we're successful, given the fact that we have roughly a little bit over $300,000 already committed for the, and when I say $300,000 in donations and cost savings on the project overall, we have $300,000 available to us to utilize on this project that will not require us to add additional borough dollars to build this amenity for the community. Sorry, Mike, Mr. Doyle's calling me back. He must have got hung up. You there, Mike?
I am, got disconnected. Are you done?
Was that a shot? So in any event, we've been able to, through donations, as you guys know, I've reported that a couple times in the Borough Manager's Report, and the cost savings, very liberally, or very conservatively, at least at a minimum of $300,000 in funds to be used towards this splash pad. If we can also get a grant for the accessory structures, we can essentially pay for this entire project without adding in any additional expenses to the municipal center project at all. So,
That's incredible.
so the recommendation from the staff would be to apply for the grants for these outbuildings. At this time, again, just like the first grant application, we're just requesting approval of the resolution to authorize the grant application.
Okay.
Any discussion? Agenda item?
While we are on that subject, we still have not approved the splash pad proposal, and I've included that in the agenda packet again. If you would like to, you would be able to approve that proposal next week if you were so inclined. I'm not suggesting that we have to do it next week, but I wouldn't want to wait until after June or July because lead times for materials are going to take some time. So if we want to get this project completed toward the end of this year, beginning of next year, we're getting kind of close to having to approve that proposal.
And Mike, the monies that you were saying that were acquired, that weren't gonna make us spend more borough money, is that for the splash pad also?
So we have committed over $225,000 in donations in naming rights for the splash pad. We also have a minimum of $100,000 in cost savings from reductions in the size and scale and scope of the amphitheater that's at the new facility. So we feel very comfortable that we have 350 or approaching 450 in funds available to pay for this splash pad. If we can get another 150 to pay for the buildings and accessory buildings, we will have paid for this thing
Great.
completely without adding any cost to the project.
Wow, that's great to hear.
So again, you don't have to approve but since it is on the agenda for our discussion for tonight, if you'd like to add that to the agenda next week to approve that proposal. The proposal that's in the agenda packet is just for the rink and the splash pad, not the additional buildings, not the bathrooms and the concession stand and
I think we should do it, in my opinion.
So do we want to add to the agenda the actual splash pad itself?
Minus the outbuildings?
Yeah, well, that proposal that's in your agenda packet is just the splash pad.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay,
good to
so we're
me.
going to add the splash pad to the agenda? Any
Yeah.
further discussion? Okay.
Hey, Mike, before you go on to out of Parks and Recreation, I wanted to bring something up. So I got a call today from the PBSA about wanting to extend the fence down Field 8. It was one of their, remember when they gave us that list of a bunch of stuff, and we narrowed it down to 4? This is one of the 8, and I guess they've been having some issues with balls going out on the road, and they're willing to.
Third base side?
Yeah, and it might be the first base side too, because I know that all the people sit down there too.
It's in between 7 and 8.
In between 7 and 8,
Yes.
okay.
So that's the first base
Because
side.
it's dangerous, because if you're playing on 7 and somebody hits it, there's not enough fencing there to keep the balls
So we
Yeah.
want two fences then.
It's definitely a lot.
Yeah, there needs to be a lot more fence down there.
Yeah.
So it's two fences, on 7, the third base side of 7, and the
And the
first
first
base
base side of
eight.
8, right.
Correct.
Right, I think I said.
Well, then there's
said it
also
wrong.
along the pedestrian walkway there too on the third base side.
So that'd be the third base side of 8 and the first base side of
Well,
7.
they didn't
So
mention
you're
the third
talking
base
4
side,
fences.
but he's only talking about, he just called me about the two, on the first base side of 8 and the left, I'm sorry, the first base side of 8 and the third base side of 7.
Yeah, that one definitely needs.
But,
to happen, too.
again, they're willing to pay for it because they still have the money. It's just a matter of whether we want to let them do it. And I don't have the details. I don't know if they're going to put up the same kind of, netting fence that there's down there now. I would assume so.
Do you know how high they're talking?
I think the same height as what's there, which is
I'd say go
which is
for it.
pretty high.
I'd say go for it.
Yeah, if they just
It's a
extended the
safety
fence that's
issue.
there at the same height, it would
Yeah.
work fine.
It's definitely a liability though.
Yeah.
Dave, Dave, you look.
Yeah, so you couldn't do a net, you'd have to have fencing there?
You could do netting.
Is the netting
I
going
guess you could do
to
netting, but-
stand up like the fence would, though?
Nah, yeah, that's the problem, is the netting you'd have to replace.
No, they
So
use-
on Field 8, at least, there used to be fences that were 4 feet high before we renovated those fields with the backstops. So so when my kids played, they were 4 feet high. I don't think there were a whole lot of issues. There's a big difference between a 4-foot-high fence and what's there right now, cost-wise.
What's there now?
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, but if you put between 4 feet and what they're proposing, is what I meant to
You
say.
said
What are
you
they
said they were
proposing?
paying for it,
I
right?
think they're proposing the same height that's there now that goes down to like the dugout or something. It's like 8 feet high, right?
8 feet?
Yeah, it's like 8 feet high, yeah. It's at least 8 feet high, it might be 10.
If they're paying for it, I mean.
Yeah, it's just,
higher-
it's fence posts, what you've seen, with the netting strung between it.
Yeah.
I guess my only concern is sort of how we facilitate this. How do we deal with both the liability issue and any potential bidding issues? If you had the staff coordinate the installation of the fence and had the PBSA pay, just pay the bill, so to speak, we might run afoul some bidding issues depending on the cost of this. Fencing gets to be pretty expensive. If we just said to the athletic association, just go ahead and put up whatever fence you want, then we run into some potential liability issues because we don't know, what's being installed, who's installing it. I would suggest that if you're going to give them permission to do this, it has to be done to a certain specification. I just don't know what that specification is right now. But if you're,
Okay.
Dave and his crew can kind of work out those specifications with them to make sure that it's done that way. That way, we can be sure from a liability perspective that we're not going to be, and I'm not suggesting that they would do something, they would just put up some sort of, fish net or something, but
I think they're just talking about putting up the same fence as there, so if we have specs for that already,
Yeah.
because it's already there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they probably have a price, or somebody ready to do it, maybe.
Hey, if somebody ready to do it, I don't know who.
Maybe
Well,
just
I
share
guess,
the,
so just, what I'm trying not to say, but I guess I'll just say it is, I'm just hoping that they're gonna get a qualified, insured installer, not just
Right.
a couple guys that are gonna try and put some
Do
fence
we
together.
need to have
They'd
the
have-
engineer look at it?
the hold
No, I don't
harmless,
think
how
it
about a
is.
hold harmless clause or something?
No, but there should be some continuity in what's there
Yeah.
and what's being proposed.
That-
Right.
Dave, since they contacted you, do you want to have them call Mr. Sabosley and go that
Right.
route?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Either way, something needs to be put there, because there is, I think someone did get hit by a ball.
Yeah, he said 2
last-
people got hit by
Yeah,
balls.
and we're very,
I mean, that
Pretty
netting
lucky.
that they put out now, I mean, they use it in golf courses all the time now. I mean, that stuff is strong. I wouldn't worry about it lasting. Netting, it's probably quite able to
Yeah, what
do
they
it.
have up there now is great, it just needs to
Just
go.
needs to
be
go
further
farther.
down, yeah.
So Dave, are we talking about 4 sides or 2 sides?
I gotta clarify that. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Well, have them contact Mr. Sabosley, and then he can have all the info and.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to bring it up, so if we need to approve it, we can have it on the agenda for next week, and they can get it done before the season gets too much longer.
Good idea.
So we can add it to we can put it on the agenda for next week, and if you don't need to take any action next week, you can just table it or.
Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion on that?
No, that needs done.
Okay, so we're going to add that to the agenda also.
Item number 12 is the ARPA funding. So ARPA is the American Recovery Protection Act? I can't remember, rescue, excuse me. So does everybody recall that under ARPA, we received just under $2.9 million. At the time we received, and we've actually received about 50% of that. We don't have the other 50% at this time. When we were informed that we were going to be receiving the it's 2.875, 2.9 million, we had council, I have to go back and look and see when that was. Finance. Last year in, I'm not sure exactly when that was. In July of last year, council authorized resolution 90721, and in that resolution, we specified where these funds were going to be used, in addition to bond funds and additional fund balance. Because the resolution specifically said that the ARPA funds were going to be used for specific projects via resolution, I wanted to have this discussion with council because the ARPA funds have to be spent down by 2024 and expended, meaning paid out and audited and completed by 2026. There's a lot of restrictions on the uses of the funds, and you can definitely use the ARPA funds for those projects that council identified in that resolution. And to be clear too, you didn't identify specifically which project, you just lumped the $2.9 million in with the bond fund proceeds and some general fund surplus, and said we were going to do all these projects with this pot of money. As we get closer to the implementation of the ARPA funding, we met with our auditors. Mayor Dussel met with us. They had a webinar for all the finance staff for all their communities, and they explained the restrictions and the uses on the ARPA funds. And without getting into too much detail, basically what the concern that we have is the ARPA funds require a single audit, meaning that we have to have a separate audit done for all the uses of the ARPA funds. As you start funding the different infrastructure projects with these ARPA funds, if we had one big project, this would be simple, but we have a bunch of different projects. So that makes the audit a little bit more complicated and a little bit more difficult from a record-keeping perspective. The other problem is that the ARPA funds require Davis-Bacon wages to be used in any projects that you do, and they have a lot of very heavily restrictive bidding requirements for any of these projects. And so some of the projects that we did already that might qualify because of the timing, they would not have been bid the way the ARPA envisioned those things being bid. And remember, when they gave us the ARPA funds, the regulations hadn't been written yet. If you remember, they were getting the money out, and here's the money. We'll tell you what the restrictions are later. So the long and short of it is this: after consultation with the auditors, and the auditors, Mayor Dussel, our auditors, went out and hired an ARPA consultant to help them weed through all the regulations regarding the ARPA funds. The end result is municipalities are permitted to use ARPA funds for operating expenses. The auditors are recommending that what we do, instead of earmarking these funds for specific infrastructure projects, is that we use the ARPA funds to pay operating expenses for 2022, because it's very simple from a record-keeping perspective, and there's no bidding requirements, there's no Davis-Bacon. It's not going to increase the cost of our infrastructure projects because of those increased costs as part of the bid requirements. We are permitted to pay operating expenses. If we pay salaries and wages for all the employees with the ARPA funds, that will generate the same amount of money, $2.9 million surplus in the general fund, that could then be used for these projects without all the restrictions associated with the bidding.
Yeah.
Is everybody with
So
me?
it makes our job easier.
And it's all copacetic with the.
Well, it's the recommendation of the auditor.
Right.
So we gotta go with it then.
So
They know better.
under ARPA, I'm not required to get council to approve of this, but for two reasons. Number one, because we did have you approve that resolution in July of last year, and because my other concern is that this might be misread as taking money away from infrastructure projects and, proverbial playing games with money.
Right.
So I'm trying to do this as above boards as possible. So the recommendation is to use these funds to pay the 2022 operating expenses. That same amount of surplus will be generated. So we're going to have a very large surplus in the general fund at the end of 2022. That surplus funds, just like we do every year, can then be transferred to the Capital Improvement Fund and Stormwater Management Fund to fund the projects without all the federal regulations regarding bidding.
As long as we have those projects funded right away, we don't run into any trouble with having too big a fund balance either, right?
No. And the projects are in the planning stages, so they'll be done soon. Like, they're not, the
Right.
Center Beach project, the O-Block project. Charlie assures me that they're ready to go out to bid next week, so.
Good, way to go, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie!
Again, that's the recommendation from the auditors and from staff. If council does not wish to go down that route, there's no action necessary because you've already authorized everything via that resolution.
I like it.
We don't have to change the resolution to
No, if you're not going to take the recommendation, we're just going to continue to do what we're going to do it, but
We'd be
So you need
foolish
a,
not to take it.
you need a resolution to change move the funds to use
or
for
just
operating expenses.
or just a motion for council
Right.
to authorize us to utilize the ARPA funds in the manner that we're proposing, and I'll prepare something for next week if that's.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's
Yeah.
recommended by the auditor, I think we'd be
I think it's a good idea.
foolish not to follow through with that.
I agree.
Item number 13 is an executive session item regarding an insurance claim. Item number 14 is this is the first time ever, I think, we've amended the vehicle disposition list 3 times. If you recall, last month, in March, you adopted the 2022 vehicle disposition list. Last month, we added a Bobcat. This month, we're suggesting adding a 2014 Ford Explorer. I went into in great detail in the manager's report about why we're suggesting this. But item number 14 and number 16 are very much related. I'm sure you can figure that out. The long and short of it is, the 2014 Explorer was already approved by council to be traded in. I'm sorry, Car 206, they're both Explorers, sorry. Car 206 was approved by council to be traded in for the new police vehicles. However, Car 206 was totaled in a collision. Because we were able to get significantly more back on the total value than we were on the trade-in, that caused the police department to maybe reconsider, and because the cost of the 3 police the police patrol vehicles that we're getting came in under budget, there's a significant savings to be had between those things. And it caused them to sort of reconsider how they're using their existing fleet. At the end of the day, what the chief would like permission to do is replace the chief's vehicle with a new 2022 Dodge Durango. His vehicle would then go down to one of the detectives, and then we would eliminate the 2014 Ford Explorer, which one of the detectives is using right now, which is getting to that point where it's going to start costing us a lot of money. So there are 2 items here, and I apologize, I guess I should have made them consecutive on the agenda, but item number 14 would just be the authorization to add the 2014 Ford Explorer to the disposition list for 2022.
Any discussion? Agenda item.
Item number 15 is the 2022 paving contract change order request number 1. As part of for those of you guys that were here back when we did this, if you remember, the Renton ball field was a landlocked piece of property. Does anybody remember this?
Yeah.
It didn't have street frontage. So it was a non-conforming lot. We went to the Renton Fire Company and asked them to subdivide a portion of the property to the borough so we would have street access to the ball field legally. In exchange for that, council agreed to pave, in exchange for that piece of property, council agreed to pave their parking lot. We've been looking at it over the last few years to be able to pave the parking lot. We've been trying to time it with our paving contract so as to minimize our expense. We don't want to bring a paver out just to pave the parking lot. We wanted to try and time it with one of our other contracts. It seems to work out very well for us this year because the 2022 paving contract came in $100,000 under budget, and this contractor is willing to do this. So what you have in your agenda packet is the proposal to pave the Renton Social Hall Fire Company parking lot for $39,270. That would be a change order to the contract. But again, we're still $60,000 under budget for the paving for this year.
Discussion? Agenda item.
Item number
Quick-
16.
Quick question, like just popped in my mind. What's the significance of us getting this frontage all of a sudden? I'm just curious, are they planning on selling their place or?
No,
No, it's for
we
the ball
approached
field.
them because the Borough Ball Field property was landlocked. It didn't have legal access to the street. And
So to get to the field, you had to go through their parking lot?
you had to go through their parking lot, exactly.
Okay.
And then we subdivided the property, they deeded it over to the borough, and
I understand now.
Any other discussion?
item number 16 is the aforementioned 2022 Dodge Durango that the chief of police vehicle that the staff is recommending.
Discussion? Agenda item.
And finally, item number 17, unfortunately, when we bid out our sanitation contract every time, we've always added fuel surcharge language in our contract. The reason that we do this, and almost every municipality does this, is because of the volatility of the fuel. If you don't, you are going to get a much higher bid prices all around. So what we do to sort of control the cost, the bid cost to the extent that we can, is we have a formula in our contract that allows the vendor, the hauler in this case, to increase the cost that, the charge that they invoice us for when fuel prices increase over a certain percentage of the CPI on an annual basis. I'm sure everybody noticed what happened with gas prices in the last year or so. The vendor is requesting, the vendor is requesting that we honor the language in our contract saying, hey, you have this fuel surcharge language in here. We want to take advantage of it. It is over $100,000 a year to our bill.
Is this every year, or is this
This
this year?
is this 1 year until
1 year.
it'll be recalculated next year.
Yeah.
So they're going from June 1st to May 31st of 2023.
Yes,
So if fuel costs go down, they will give us a rebate?
that's the way it's
That's the way
written.
it's supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the threshold, do you know?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Well, they're
Dave, do you
looking at
remember?
$8,504 a month.
Yeah, but I mean, the total, they don't pay the same amount for fuel that off the road people do, I mean, they buy theirs in bulk, I'm sure, like
Yeah,
everybody else.
If you
does.
look at in the contract, there's a formula that shows how it's calculated, and there are certain assumptions that are made, certain numbers that we use for that. So, it's a pretty complex calculation that we verified, how they calculated it. But if you're interested, I'm more than happy to show you in the
Well, I
contract.
just wonder
yeah.
what the number is, because, I mean, I know, just from driving down the road, you can see diesel fuel's over $5 a gallon. So, I mean, I get it, trust me, I used to have to surcharge when this happened in the 2000s, early 2000. Everybody was doing it then, too. So, but then, after a certain amount of time, we had to stop charging it. So, that's just what I wonder, is it the same way? It sounds like it is.
Yeah, it goes back for every week from March of 2021, till the end of February 2022, looking at the average gas price of those months. And then there's a calculation based on the number of units we have. Much easier if we sit down and talk about it.
No, I understand.
And do it here.
All right, yeah, it's fine.
So the fuel surcharge language is in the contract. That does
Yes.
not require council action. The reason this is on the agenda for this evening is because so we pay, on average, our bill to county hauling every month is about $120,000 to $130,000 a month. So You do the math, this is a little bit less than a 10% increase, a little bit less than a 10% increase. The question is, this fuel surcharge is not envisioned in our monthly bill that we bill residents for trash hauling. The question is, does council want to consider an increase in the garbage bill to accommodate all or some percentage of this fuel surcharge?
So I have a question first. In this thing here, so the 52-week fuel average is from March of 21 through February 22. Are we paying for, is this surcharge of 102,000 for the fuel they used in that last year?
No, that's just how they're calculating the difference, the variance per gallon.
So,
Okay. So everything that anything that they've expended over and above up until whenever this starts,
We're not
we're not paying for that?
Correct.
Okay. So it's just a going forward thing.
so to adjust for the cost, we put that cost down on the residents, it would be 82 cents per bill, essentially.
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, $10 a year.
I
That's-
think we should do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's 82 cents. I don't know.
It's not our fault.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's significant. I mean, if we were saying that we were adding maybe $10 a bill, being $120 a year, that would be a significant shot to, especially people that are retired or on a fixed income. But with it being something that's, under $1, I don't see why, think cost of living goes up. It is what it is, unfortunately. It stinks, but.
Any more discussion? So we're gonna put it on the agenda as to pass the cost of 82 cents a month on to,
We're just gonna put on the agenda to
Okay.
increase. We'll have to
That's
figure
what I
out
wanted to make
exactly
sure.
what, exactly.
Well, it's
what
around,
we're-
I mean,
we're
it's
gonna
gonna be,
pass on,
yeah.
we're gonna pass on the increase.
It's gonna be around there, yes.
Okay,
under a buck.
okay.
And then the rest of the items on the agenda are executive session items.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have anything they'd like to discuss?
I'm just looking for a little bit of information. My personal cable provider is Dish Network, so I don't get the opportunity to watch the broadcasts of the council meetings. And I would like to have some guidance on how I can read the minutes or review the minutes from a couple of past council meetings. Now, this nice young man told me that I can do it through Facebook, but I'm vision impaired and it's very hard for me to deal with a computer screen. Is there any other way that maybe I could print it out or have a hard copy or,
If you wanted copies, you'd have to fill out a right to know request, but if you just wanted to come in and read minutes, we have the minute books here. We can set you up in one of the conference rooms to read through minute books.
Okay, do I have to make an appointment? Should I call?
No, I mean, if you can,
Just depending what rooms are available.
Yeah, it's really gonna depend on space available. I would just call down and just, you can ask for me. If we have some space available, if we have some space available and time, we'll set you up. But we will make time for you to come down and read the minutes.
Is it not possible, I mean, I'm not technology, isn't it possible?
Me
it's
either.
on Facebook?
So our minutes are actually on our website too. The minutes
Yeah,
are
they're
on
on
the
the
website.
Yeah, but I meant as far as watching the council meeting or whatever.
The council
She could
meetings
feed
are
that
on-
through her TV.
The council meetings are on YouTube and Facebook that you could watch them,
But
yes.
can I get them on a TV or
Yes.
can I get them just on a computer
Get 'em on
screen?
the TV.
Dish might actually have the application on your, as a provider, they sometimes provide that app in their, I don't know what you want to
Yeah, I
call
don't-
it,
yeah,
but they're
in their
on their
menu.
platform.
I think
And-
there's a charge for it, though.
Most don't charge.
Yeah, for
Well,
I
streaming,
mean,
yeah.
Comcast
I'm
and,
grateful for any information or
yeah.
direction.
So even with that, sometimes your TV also just has it on it, and you can go on there, and actually what's nice with a lot of the platforms now, they're actually providing, you can actually talk into the microphone and it will lead you to that. So I don't know if you have that, I don't know if
Yeah,
Dish
I
has that
have-
capability, but
Yes.
Well, you're right, the TV could have it too, the actual TV,
Yes,
the newer
the
TV
smart
could have a
TVs
YouTube
come with it.
widget
Yeah.
and then you could watch, yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
do what
so-
I do?
What do you
Call
do,
your
Harry?
granddaughter up and ask her to come over and fix it.
Ask who to come and fix it?
Your granddaughter or one of your grandkids, they know how to deal with that stuff.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, I call on her all the time.
Well, just
For-
say I need
for
to
many
get- I need to
reasons.
get YouTube up on my computer. If it's on my TV, it's a Smart Hub TV, you should be able to do it.
Well, I probably can't do it, but
I can.
yeah, I'm sure that I can. Plus, my daughter teaches IT at Penn State, so she should be able. But everybody's so busy, Harry, you know?
Hey, they
It's
don't
like
need no
making a, it would be a good Mother's Day present, don't you think? Thanks for the information.
Anything else?
Yeah, you can do that on
Okay, we're done, adjourned.
That makes sense. Think about that.
Session.